you're not crazy and you're not lazy. And no, constant cravings, exhausting workouts, and hating the mirror is not your forever, especially not after 40, no matter what they've told you. Body freedom is stable energy, balanced hormones, eating carbs without fear of gaining weight, and feeling great naked. And that's exactly where this podcast is taking you. Welcome to the Body Freedom Podcast, where we dig into all things women's health and give you the real actionable tools to claim body freedom for yourself. Follow the show and leave a 5-star rating. It's how more women find us.
A client said something to me last week that I have not been able to get out of my head. She originally came to me because she was wanting to lose 15 pounds, which is what most women come to me for, so I wasn't surprised. And as she sat across the screen from me, before we even opened her lab results, she looked at me and said, "My sex drive is just gone." And then she told me her husband had finally worked up the nerve to ask her about it. He did it kindly, so we're not here to bash a husband. He just told her that he didn't understand what was happening with her anymore. And the only thing she could say back to him was, "I'm sorry, I don't know." I'm sorry, I don't know. That's the part that has been stuck in my head, because she had known for years that her desire was just kind of slipping away, and she quietly had hoped that he wouldn't notice, or that he wouldn't mind, or that she would never really actually have to face it. Her doctor chalked it up to being in menopause, and every one of her friends was experiencing something really similar. So they all kind of just thought it was normal as you got older. And she knew that her husband loved her and that she loved him. And that was never the question. She was still attracted to him. She really wanted to have sex with him, but it weighed on her anyway. And because it wasn't like before, she thought it was just what happens when two people are in a relationship for a really long time. She thought, was it her fault? Was it his? And quietly underneath all of it, the question she couldn't quite get out loud was, what are the next 30 years going to look like for us? Like I said, she hadn't stopped wanting to want her husband. She simply had no language for what was happening inside her own body. And every voice around her told her, one way or another, that this was just her turn to accept and move on. So she did what almost every woman does in this situation. She apologized for it, and she kind of quietly filed it away under this label of, this is just who I am now. If that landed somewhere in your chest, I need you to hear the first true thing before we even go 1 inch further in this episode. Your libido did not disappear because you got older. It didn't vanish because you have been married so long, or because you stopped finding your partner attractive, or because something is wrong with you as a woman. Desire for sex is not a fixed trait you either have or you lose. Desire is a response. And I don't mean a response to foreplay or a response to anticipation. Of course, we all know that. I mean an actual physiological response inside your body. And after 40, there's a whole new set of conditions that change and affect your desire for sex. I don't think anybody has ever connected them for you. And so that's what we're going to do today. So this client came to me because she wanted to lose weight, but it turned out there was so much more going on underneath the surface. Is pretty typical for the women that come to me. And it taught me something. And now I see in almost every woman that I work with: the weight gain, the low sex drive, the anxiety, the brain fog. So many of the symptoms you have been struggling and white knuckling through your day are all wrapped up in the same root cause: a metabolism that is not working the way it's supposed to. And when you get underneath that dysfunction and actually fix it, you are not chasing one symptom at a time anymore. You give the whole body a chance to come back into balance, comes back online, and symptom after symptom starts to resolve as one. You fix the root and the whole system gets to heal. Okay, so this episode is about sex drive. So back to sex drive. For a lot of women over 40, desire does not vanish all at once or out of nowhere. It fades for several reasons, and I want to walk you through them. The first one I hear from women constantly is that sex after 40 starts to feel uncomfortable. And in a lot of cases, genuinely painful. And a body that no longer associates sex with pleasure is obviously going to stop asking for it. That is literally your nervous system doing exactly what it is designed to do: protect you from pain. If something stopped feeling good, you stop reaching for it. And then one day you look up and realize the wanting is gone, and you cannot even explain where it went, because the real story was never really about the wanting in the first place. It was about the pleasure. And that's really hard to bring up to your husband or to your doctor, because sex is supposed to be about pleasure, and we're not trying to hurt anybody's feelings or feel embarrassed about talking about this thing that women get shamed for or inherently have shame about, even when we don't think we do. So let me walk you through what's actually happening inside your body on a physiological response level that is making sex painful. This is part of core step number 6. We go after the root cause, because your libido is not the problem. Your libido is the messenger. It's the result of the problem. And we are going to learn to read that message right now. Start with the physical. For so many women, this is the domino that knocks the rest of it over. During perimenopause transitions, estrogen begins to decline. We know this. And estrogen is a huge part of what keeps vaginal tissues supple, resilient, and comfortable. As it drops, that support gets pulled out from underneath those tissues. Things get drier, thinner, more sensitive, but not in a good way, and sometimes to the point of being genuinely uncomfortable or even painful. This is not in your head, and it's not because you are not aroused. It is a real physical change that happens when estrogen drops, and it is one of the most common experiences in all of the women I work with who are in midlife. And it is one that is the most treatable. And yet, women are still gritting their teeth through it for years, saying nothing because it feels too private or embarrassing to bring up with their husband or their doctor. So it just goes unspoken. And that unspoken, it quietly damages the tissue and becomes even more uncomfortable and continues to reinforce our nervous systems that we are teaching our bodies that sex is uncomfortable. And the desire can never survive a body that has learned to brace for something we're supposed to enjoy. So yes, of course, you can just reach for lubricant, and plenty of women do, and maybe that resolves the problem for them, but it is just a Band-Aid. It's not touching the root cause, which is the estrogen declining underneath it all. The second reason your sex drive diminishes in perimenopause is your declining testosterone. Somewhere along the way, women were taught that testosterone is a man's hormone. The bodybuilders, the steroids, the deep voice, the hair, the guy in the locker room. And because the entire cultural conversation around testosterone was built around men, an entire generation of women grew up never knowing it was theirs too. So let me say it as plainly as I can. Testosterone is not a male hormone. It is a human hormone. And for most of your life, your body has actually made more testosterone than it's made estrogen. More. It is the most abundant, active sex hormone you have, working the whole time on your muscle, your bones, your mood, your confidence, your desire, without us even giving it credit. And of everything testosterone does in a woman, desire is where the evidence is strongest and clearest. When testosterone drops, and for a lot of women, the wanting drops right with it, not the love, not the attraction, the actual drive itself. So if you have been sitting in the passenger seat of your own life, assuming the spark is just gone, you've been with him for so long, I want you to consider that you may just be describing a hormone issue and not a personality trait. And a hormone issue can be addressed. So there's also an upstream piece here too. One your doctor definitely is not mentioning to you. Before your body makes testosterone, it makes a building block hormone called DHEA, largely from your adrenal glands, and DHEA sits upstream of both your testosterone and your estrogen. And when it starts to decline, which it does with age and with years of chronic stress, everything downstream can drop right along with it. It is one of the most telling markers in a woman's hormonal picture, and standard of care never tests it. It is also the piece that when it builds the right amount of estrogen and it builds the right amount of testosterone, it actually helps you lose weight with ease. Why are our doctors not testing for this in perimenopause? And then there is progesterone, which most people never connect to any of this. Progesterone is your calming hormone, and it starts to decline in your mid-30s, often a full decade before estrogen starts to make its exit. When it falls, sleep gets lighter, the mind gets busier, as your anxiety starts to creep in and the weight gain starts to climb. Desire does not stand a chance in a body that is anxious, wired, self-conscious, and exhausted. A woman who is lying awake at 2 a.m. with a racing mind and is not a woman whose body is going to prioritize sex. It's too busy trying to survive life, which brings me to the thief underneath all of it. Stress. Your body builds your sex hormones from the same raw materials it uses to build your stress hormones. So when you are running on chronic stress, which I'm just going to say as a side note, 100% of women who come to see me are under chronic stress, even if your body doesn't feel it. Every single one of them will also tell me, I don't feel stressed. And I'll say that for myself as well. But women are so wired to push through stress that it becomes our normal feeling. But it doesn't mean our body isn't reaching for it, okay? So if you are running on chronic stress, undersleeping, undereating, over-caffeinating, and what I'd like to say is white knuckling through your days, your body is going to make the decision for you. Sex, pleasure, nope. Survival. It pours those resources, those raw materials into cortisol and adrenaline production again and again for decades. And sex drive, along with the easy weight loss you remember from your 20s, those are the first things to go. I have to name the rest of it too. The parts that are not hormonal at all, because if I only talk about the hormones, then I'm doing the exact thing I promise I will never do to anybody listening to this podcast, which is give you only half the picture. Your sex drive also lives or dies on your sleep, on how much of yourself you have left at the end of the day after caring for everyone else, on whether you have been touched all day by little kids or on whether you are completely touched out at the end of the day by your kids, by your dog, on whether you are completely touched out by the end of the day and whether you still have anything left to be touched by choice. It lives or dies on mental load. It lives or dies on the mental load you are carrying that your partner doesn't even see. And sometimes, and I say this gently, it is being blunted by the very medications a woman was handed in the first place. Certain antidepressants can flatten sex drive. Birth control can flatten it, synthetic HRT. So a woman gets a prescription for the anxiety and the low mood, and the pill quietly turns down the libido that she was already struggling with in the first place. And now you've just added 2 layers deep, and you continue to blame yourself for both. Do you hear what I am describing? This was never one thing. It's certainly not your fault, and it was never as simple as one hormone or one fix. It's a body being pressed on from every direction at once. And a woman in the middle of it who has been taught to look at it, and a woman who has been taught to completely dismiss it and conclude that it's because she is aging and it must be her and she needs to move on. This is physiological and circumstance and the medical system that never taught you to actually address any of it. So you finally decide something is really wrong. You go to your doctor, you ask for help, and you get told your labs are normal. I want to talk about that word normal because it has kept more women feeling like garbage in their midlife than almost anything else I see. I have never run a lab and things come back normal. When standard testing runs, 2 things are working against you. The first, a blood is just a single snapshot. When your doctor runs its standard blood work, 2 things are working against you. First, blood work is just a snapshot of a moment in time. One moment in time on one day, maybe fasted, maybe not. They're trying to capture something that swings left and right and all over the place, especially in perimenopause, but it's never going to be accurate. A snapshot misses the entire story. The second problem, mostly being the biggest problem, is that the reference range for hormones and for all of your lab markers in women is so enormous. It is from the sickest of the sick, dying people all the way to an Olympic athlete. And if you are at the very bottom of that, you are still considered normal. So a woman can be like scraping along the floor of that range, flat and foggy and completely disconnected from her own body. And her report come back with the reassuring word that you're normal. But normal is not the same as optimal. Normal just means that you are technically inside a range that was drawn very, very wide. There is a world of difference between the woman who is barely surviving at the bottom of it and the woman thriving in the part where she feels like herself again. And this is the heart of everything I do. It is what I have experienced in my own life, and it is what I get to help guide women toward every single day. The number on that normal lab result is not the story your doctor should be treating. You are the story. How you feel, how you function, how you move through your life and your marriage and your own skin. That is the data that matters. A good practitioner reads the numbers on the labs in context with the whole woman in front of them and not the other way around. So if you've been told that your labs are fine, that you're totally normal, while every cell in your body is telling you that you're tired, that you're anxious, that you can't sleep, that you're gaining weight, no sex drive, hair thinning, bloated, or any of the rest of it, you are not imagining it. And the tools that most conventional doctors are using are just too blunt to even catch it. Which brings me to the wall almost every single woman hits after they turn 40 and exactly what to do when you hit it. Because there is a specific reason your doctor has probably never looked at it the way I look at it. There is a specific way to handle it when you're just kind of waved off. I'm going to walk you through all of that and what your options are when the answer your doctor gives you is everything looks normal in about 60 seconds. So here is the wall you are probably going to hit if you haven't already hit it. Most doctors are never trained in this. Hormones and menopause barely got a chapter in medical school textbooks, and female sexual health, oh my God, it didn't get any. So a lot of them call testosterone a male hormone, tell you that low sex drive is just aging, and hand you a lubricant on the way out of their office. That is not their fault. It is a training gap that they've just inherited, but it can't be the end of your story. So let me give you what to actually do with all of this. Before you go anywhere, before you go call your doctor's office, before you hire a practitioner to really investigate what's going on, I want you to take a look at yourself and figure out which one is most likely yours. Because low sex drive is not just one problem. It's usually one of three, and maybe it's all three. You can start to tell them apart tonight just by paying attention to your own body. So sign one that it's your estrogen that is causing the issue. If the real issue is that sex itself has become physically uncomfortable, dry, even painful, and that discomfort is what is slowly turning you off, that points to estrogen and the tissues changing like we talked about earlier. The desire for sex might even still be there. It's the act that just stopped feeling good. So your body is kind of backing away from it to protect you. So that's low estrogen. Sign two is that it's your testosterone. If sex still feels physically good, but the desire itself is just gone, no pull, no spark, it doesn't even cross your mind. If you could happily go months without it and never notice, that flat sort of absent drive points straight to testosterone. Sign three is that it's your stress hormones. If your sex drive is not so much gone as buried, if you are wired and tired, if you're anxious, waking at 2 a.m., sort of running on fumes, and sex is just like one more chore you have to do at the end of the day, and you just don't have the bandwidth for, that points to cortisol stealing from your progesterone, your calm, and your sleep. And if you just listened to all three and thought, that is me, that's all me, and that is also me, that is not some rare, complicated case. That is the single most common picture in perimenopause. These hormones do not fall one at a time in isolation. They fall together and they drag each other the whole way down. So when it is all three at once, that is not the moment to guess harder. That is the moment to stop guessing and actually test. So here's exactly what to ask for when you walk into your practitioner's office or your doctor's office. You walk in and you ask them to run a total and free testosterone. Both are so incredibly important. You need to ask for your DHEA, your estradiol, and your progesterone. That is the baseline sex hormone picture, and most doctors will not run it unless you ask for it by name. The other thing is that timing also matters. If you are still getting a period, even an irregular one, you want to test in the second half of your cycle, about 5 to 7 days after you ovulate. There are ways you can test for ovulation if you want to be really accurate, but oftentimes in perimenopause, ovulation is not as accurate. So you want to be around day 19 or day 21, somewhere in there of your cycle. If your cycles are absent, then you can test at any point. But the idea is that we're getting a good picture of the ratio of estradiol to progesterone. And that's when progesterone peaks. And if you want an even fuller picture, the one I actually love the most is a Dutch test, a Dutch complete to be more specific. I don't think your doctor's going to run this one, but you can always ask. It is a simple at-home urine test. And instead of one blurry snapshot of blood, it shows how your body actually utilizes those hormones. It maps your cortisol rhythm across the entire day, and it even looks for your melatonin. So you are not just seeing your sex hormones, you're seeing the stress and the sleep picture sitting underneath it. And having a practitioner put it all together gives you a better idea, or gives them a better idea of the whole pattern, which is what a personalized protocol should be based on. And if your doctor won't run any of it, or runs it and then does nothing with it and tells you everything is normal, which I can bet in perimenopause, we are not talking optimal, even if it's normal, that's where my team comes in. I work alongside licensed prescribers all over the US and Canada who do this properly, who test the right way at the right time, and who treat the woman, the whole woman, in front of them instead of one number on one page. You can message me and we will help you find the right person. One more thing, and I'm not going to sugarcoat this. If you truly are in perimenopause, no herbal supplement is going to bring your sex hormones back. I love food as medicine. I love the foundations, and they matter enormously, especially if bioidentical hormone therapy is going to work optimally. But maca powder and seed cycling, they are not going to replace what your ovaries are actually winding down. At a certain point, real hormones are the answer if you want to feel incredible in midlife and you want someone who will actually put the option on the table. That client I told you about at the start of this episode, the one who could only say, "I'm sorry, I just don't know what's happening." She had just never been handed any of this information. And once we tested properly at the right time and actually treated what we found, she got it all back. The wanting, the desire, the spark, herself, and not just a little bit, but like all the way back. Because this was never really about the lab value. It was about reaching for your partner because you want to, not performing out of guilt. It is about the next 30 years of your life feeling like something you actually want to move toward, fully alive in your own skin, instead of something you brace for. That is not a fantasy, guys, and that is not luck. This is what is on the other side of actually dealing with it. So here's your step one. If your doctor will not test or will not treat, message me and my team will help you find the person who will. And if you just want the simplest place to start, understanding your own body, take the quiz linked in the show notes. And if you want the simplest place to start, just understanding your own body and where it needs support right now, take my metabolism quiz linked in the show notes. It's going to tell you everything. My name is Michele Scarlet, and it is my job to help you build body freedom. I am not here to hold your hand. I am here to hand you the map and walk it with you. You do the work, and I make sure it actually pays off.
That's a wrap on today's episode of the Body Freedom Podcast. And remember, body freedom isn't a fantasy reserved for women in their 20s. It's stable energy, balanced hormones, eating carbs without fear, and feeling great naked at 40, at 50, at any age. And every episode is walking you one step closer. Before you go, if you're not sure what's actually blocking your body freedom, take my free metabolism quiz. In just a couple of minutes, you'll find out exactly what's going on with your metabolism and what to do about it. The link is in the show notes. And if today gave you even one shift, tap follow and leave a 5-star review. It's genuinely how more women find this show and start claiming body freedom for themselves. I'll see you next week.